Hey, you need to lock him up. Wow.
No.
It's just football season, you know what, shoot.
We'll see it.
My mentor.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Everybody is here except Commissioner Allen, and as far as I know, he'll be in later, but he's not here right now, so just, so that reflects.
His law.
Item number.
He won't be here.
He won't?
No, he's got Tri-State.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
It's more fun.
Item number 2, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item concern regular session agenda of 1 October 2019. I have a couple. I'd like to remove from the consent agenda items in paragraph 6, items 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3, and then vote on those independently. Okay. Any other?
I had one on the claims list. On the first category, and I'm sorry I don't have it pulled up, but on the first category, about the 4th or 5th one down for OG&E was $45,000. And I looked at those pretty close. I don't remember seeing one like that before. What building or group of buildings, or where's that from?
Probably the combined electric bill.
Right, and there are probably about 20 different accounts that come onto that combined electric bill. It just depends on the usage on those. We do have free service applied to that account too as part of the franchise agreement. So it fluctuates based on street lights and a bunch of other things that come into that combined billing.
Okay, so you see that as just kind of normal, it just,
Yeah,
okay.
there's nothing that's been out of the norm. We're tracking every month, every account that we have for all of our utilities.
Okay.
So anything out of the norm, we'd be questioning.
Well, that one just kind of stuck out at me. When I looked at it, wow.
Yeah, we'd be talking to Mike Ruby already if there were questions about that. So.
Okay.
Not
thank
anymore,
you.
you're tired.
Yeah.
We just a quick follow-up note on that. We get a certain amount of free service like Aaron talked about. It's in the contract, the franchise agreement. It's based on, I think, I don't know, something about total kilowatt hours or something. Just so everybody knows, the OG&E franchise is coming up for renegotiation in either 22 or 23. It was done. It was a 25-year deal done in 97. So at that time, we can talk about free service because obviously the more free service we get, it's better for the citizens. So.
When did you say that was?
97, 2022, I think, is that right, Carol? It's a 25-year deal from 97. So
That'd be 2022.
What's our period that we have to actually start negotiating it, though? Because there's a, to negotiate it with any actual teeth, we have to do it so far ahead of time, don't we?
Yes, we do.
When's that, what's that window?
I don't,
You don't have all of it memorized?
no, I
we'll
don't.
get that answer.
And,
Bring it back.
teeth is relative,
Yeah.
because, we did what we could on the last one.
Kind of. Only because we've blown the deadline. But this time.
No, that was ONG.
Right, sorry, the last one we negotiated.
Yeah.
The last OG&E, yes.
Yes. You would
Yeah.
remember because your mom was on the council.
She was. Got a couple good stories from that.
Indeed.
Okay. Any other items from the regular session? Hearing none, we'll go to item number 3, discuss Benny's Barn property purchase proposal.
Yeah, let me jump out there and start. I know Carol will add comments too. This thing started out some time ago with Benny's Barn, and they've talked to us, and they're probably watching on TV now. What we started out talking about some time ago, and actually I think we had a study session in the past, and I think it was before some of you have come on, the new ones. We discussed selling some property, specifically 20 acres out by where they're at. Just to clarify, Benny's Barn is a nonprofit organization that specializes in horse therapy for special needs kids and adults or anybody that thinks they need that.
Yeah.
And they provide that, and they do it with rescue horses that they train, and it's been a very effective program. In about 2014, even before that, probably in about 2010 or 2011, the city purchased a property out there by the current wastewater plant. It was 150 acres. It included this 20-acre, roughly a 20-acre tract with a house on it that some folks lived in. We paid a significant amount of money for it back then. I think it was well over $600,000. We got it because we needed to work with Coke on the project with wastewater lines. We also got it because the new wastewater plant was in closer proximity, and we thought we might have some issues with smell and that kind of stuff. So we worked to get that property, and we acquired it and had it ever since. Until about 2014, we had a public works director that stayed in it. Maybe it was 2013. Anyway, when he left, it became vacant. And sometime in late 2014, Benny's Barn had come to the city, talked to the previous city manager, and then came into a study session, and it was determined that the city would lease them the property. And so we did a couple of leases with them. I didn't bring my copy down here of the current lease, but the current lease provides them access to all of that and the house for about $1,300 a month. Initially, some of the Benny's Barn people, notably I think the Bakers, may have used that as a residence, which is why the rent was pretty high to begin with, because the house doesn't have a whole lot of value unless you live in it, except for the bathrooms, which are not ADA compliant. Anyway, Benny's Barn came back to us. It's probably been way earlier this year, or maybe even last year, and talked about wanting to buy a parcel. And so we talked about it. Theoretically, they went out and got a survey, which they got to us earlier this year. We started looking at it, and we just got, we got lost in other projects, and they brought it back to us just recently. And so we sat down with them again and looked at it. We think while we could do a property purchase deal with them, we think it might be better to do a long-term lease. Carol thinks that, she can talk about that in a minute. So they seem to be, at this point, okay with that. And we're currently working with them to negotiate a long-term lease. Long-term being on the lines of 50 years. They have currently, there was an old barn out there that they used for their horse therapy barn that was just an old barn when we bought it. I couldn't tell you how much money they put into that. I'm guessing they put in significantly, probably more than $100,000. And I'm probably way off. They probably put in several $100,000 or whatever they did to heat it, to improve it, to make horse stalls, to do the things they've done. And that was at their expense. They've done all that. They do not want that house there. They consider a liability, to use their words. They'd like to tear it down, and they want to build a new facility there that allows them to improve and expand their offerings. And they would pay for that. I think roughly, they're talking about a metal building of $200,000 or more in investment. And in turn, and that's part of why they wanted to buy it, because to get donors, they felt like they needed to have ownership to get people to donate. Well, since then, I think Carol's talked to them, Clint's talked to their attorneys, Clint Claypole has talked to them, and they understand that with a long-term lease, they can accomplish the same thing with convincing donors to help give them money to pay for this building, to expand and improve their services, but they have to have a long-term lease or buy it. We've been talking with them some terms about rent. We're still talking about that. We're talking about tearing the building down. They're talking about some other things, and that's where I'm going to let Carol pick up, because she's talked with Clint most recently today, who represents him and was here at that study session.
Okay, sure. My concern was we spent a lot of money on the property, and the property is forever, and so is the city, and maybe the nonprofit will be forever, but keeping control of the land I thought was important, long-term. So now, that said, we could carve out the 20 acres, but obviously the quarter section is more valuable together. So that was why we went to the long-term lease. We're haggling over how much the lease should be. We kind of thought about $200 a month. They're thinking $200 a year. We'll work on that. Additionally,
And
there,
just in fairness, they're thinking that they're gonna invest $200,000+ out there, that, on property that they don't own, they might have a long-term lease on. So that's part of what they're thinking is on
right,
that,
right,
in fairness to them.
yes.
What is the monthly expense from the city, or the annual expense from the city for that property, in terms of?
I think we're still looking that up, because a question in this negotiation came about who's paying the utilities. Currently, the city's paying the utilities. And so, I don't know that we've had time to really look that up.
We know that the city has been paying
But,
the utilities.
To the tune
There's-
of how much? Or don't we know yet?
I don't know, do we have any idea? It's probably putting you on the spot, and you may not have the numbers, or maybe you
You're
did.
good, I do have the
Okay, good,
last
thank you.
6 months. Just averaging the last 6 months out there has been straight, right under 500 a month, to do heating and, cooling and electricity out there for their facility that they
Hmm.
have.
So I guess the question would be is that if they're gonna demo the existing building and put up their own building, are they gonna be paying?
We've talked about
utilities?
demoing the building
Yeah.
at our expense, just to
Right.
get it done. That would roughly, I don't have a real estimate, I'm just
Sure.
guessing in my head, $10,000, and I'm hoping that's high.
Okay,
This house is I believe it's a 2-story house with a full basement. I think it's got a full basement.
yeah.
So
And then they would be paying the utilities for their facility then, or are we
that's
intending on
part of what
continuing
we're
with that?
negotiating with the new
Yes.
lease.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Subject to your thoughts, because this would come back to you. If we can get to an agreement with them, with your input tonight, we would bring it back on the 15th, and you guys would be the approving.
they, on their new metal building, they, are proposing, well, they propose that we would, if the lease terminates, that we would pay the construction cost. But, haven't agreed to that, clearly. I mean.
God, this seems like, I mean, I'm happy to help them out, but a 50-year lease for a pittance
Mhm.
where we pay to demolish everything, and if the lease terminates, we pay for their building. It's,
And the utilities,
Well,
well, no, we wouldn't be paying for the utilities ongoing.
okay.
we
um,
would,
But good grief, that seems a bit excessive.
yes. We talked about maybe amortizing
Oh, yeah.
the building. So if they, which would basically mean if they stay in business for 20 years, then we wouldn't be paying for the building.
Mhm. I'm not sure. A 50-year
That's why
lease-
we're here to talk
Yeah,
about
I
it,
don't-
because I don't know how far you guys want to
I don't feel
go.
like a 50-year lease without any feedback from the city is appropriate. I mean, I don't have any heartburn with doing, even like 5 or 10-year lease with renewals. I don't have any, but I mean, 50 years without any come back and check in, and as long as they are meeting the very minimal definition, the least of equine therapy.
Nonprofit, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a nonprofit and
Right.
provide equine therapy within.
that's why we're here.
But that, I
I inherited the
Yeah,
Benny
no, I
Barnes
understand,
thing.
yeah.
Do we have any numbers in terms of, how many kids, how many?
Yes, they do. I don't have that ready. We talked about them coming in tonight. They'd expressed, since we're still working on this, that they were comfortable just having the discussion. They're probably watching on TV, which is
Sure.
great. They may have talked to some of you. They're welcome to talk to you guys and what you think. I think that because we have been doing it since 2015, and it's a great organization, we want to continue to support it somehow. We, meaning, I'll just say generically, I'll just say me, but I think it's city staff. I know it's city staff, and Carol thinks a long-term lease is better. I don't know how long-term it has to be from their perspective. They would tell you that they just need to be able to have enough, a long-term enough lease that potential donors would be convinced to give them, to donate money to build this facility to support their costs. And so if that could be less than 50, we just threw out 50 because that's a pretty long-term lease.
It seems too long.
What, Ben, with your experience, I don't know, but how long do you think the lease would have to be to not scare away donors and for donors to be comfortable donating to your cause to build a building on
Mhm.
property you don't own, you just have it leased?
I mean, 15 years seems
15?
more than adequate. I mean, the thing is, nonprofits do fundraising and make capital improvements on leased ground, leased property frequently. It's frequently nonprofits just can't afford to go buy a chunk of property. We have a lot of nonprofits in town who operate out of leased property. Park Avenue's building is leased, not out. I mean, that's just not in and of itself an outlier by any means. I don't think that should be as long as there is a written lease. I mean, if I certainly wouldn't want to be in their shoes without some kind of written lease, just some kind of handshake deal, that'd be scary. But as long as they have, you know, some kind of written protection, I don't think it's going to be a big barrier to them with fundraising.
Do you think 15 with an option for a renewal as long as they meet whatever conditions the city would have, like performing there, do you think that would be reasonable, or do you think just 15
That seems
max, or-
reasonable, though. I mean, they need to pay something for it. I don't think we should be.
Well, we've talked about
Yeah.
that, and I think they understand that. It's just a question of getting to whatever that amount should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of that is the shorter the longer the term, the more they need to be paying. I mean, if it's a shorter term deal, then maybe we give them we do a favor for them for the first 5 years to help them get some money raised for that and with an accelerator. But
Okay.
if they,
That's fair.
it
Yeah.
seems,
Okay.
I mean, I just don't want to be committing to 160 acres getting leased out for that long. And I mean, I'm thrilled with what they're doing. I'm excited for it, but it's also, that's a long time without a lot of teeth there. I mean, and it is 160 between the two tracks, right?
Yes.
The assessor has it broken out
It's
into two
100.
chunks.
Mhm.
160?
It's 160.
Well, it's a 150 acre
Farm,
ag chunk
plus
and
the
then
10
the
house.
10 acre
Yeah.
house chunk.
Right.
And then the assessor shows that we paid 420 for the house chunk in 2010.
We
And then
paid
230 for the ag
690 or
truck.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Huge.
690.
Huge
That's
amount. That's a lot. That's
yeah,
why.
that's a crazy price
That's
for
why
that. For that 10 acres.
I was concerned about,
And it also
selling
looks like
the 20.
The house is what, couple thousand square feet?
yeah,
Not even that, like 1,600 square feet.
3 stories?
Two.
Well,
Two and a
they don't
basement,
count
yeah.
the basement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And the house is in disrepair. The city is not spending any more money to repair it because it's got ADA issues, the siding's
Yeah, they can't
separated,
use
there's
it.
problems in the basement.
Hmm.
So, yeah, the house needs to be torn down.
I have a question. Did I understand that what Aaron said that we're paying $500 a month for electricity, and they want us to continue to do that?
Utilities, I think that's total. Is it 500 for electricity or 500 for utilities?
Electric and gas.
And then water, I'm guessing they're not billed for water too, right?
I wouldn't think they would have.
Okay,
So yes,
so, and they're looking for us to do that for full 50
that's,
years?
that's what they
They're-
want.
they're-
Oh,
But
really?
we
They
have-
want us to
That's
lease it for nothing and not?
$300,000.
No.
Yeah,
Well, they're
I
negoti-
hear.
they're
They're
negotiating.
negotiating.
so that's why we're talking to get your feedback, because whatever we do, you're gonna vote on. So-
That's a great organization. I'm very supportive of it. And Ben's got a good point. The 50-year lease doesn't concern me that much, but giving them $300,000 in electricity up front is something that's,
Yeah.
at least, we need to think through that. Because
Yeah.
we're committing
Yeah.
to a whole bunch of commissions in the future.
Right. Yeah, and we're not even breaking even. The discussion points were $200 a month, so we can give $500 a month utilities and half the land.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like such a good deal.
Do they do any, is there any cultivation on the ag tract? It's all grazed out for the horse?
Mhm. I mean, I don't know if they do hay, but it's just
Yeah,
grass.
that's what I mean.
I
they
do
cut-
think
do they-
yes, I think they cut.
But do they cut it just for
Yes.
their own use,
In
or
their
do they sell
agreement,
it?
they're not allowed to sublet.
Okay, that's,
And in fairness, I guess, I got familiar with their contract again, their current contract. Their current contract was set up for them to pay utilities, but I think we had some issues getting separate meters. So in effect, that hasn't happened. So as we
being separate
try to
meters?
negotiate or change the meter, whatever it is.
I assume it had its own meter.
Well, the house probably did. Yeah, it would probably the same. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the situation we're in, so now's an opportunity to come up with whatever's acceptable and agreeable. And so we're getting your feedback here so that we can get back with them and tell them what would be acceptable, knowing that I think we all want to help them into a situation where they can get the donors to keep running their organization successfully, but also to probably cover, at least at a minimum, cover the costs of the facility, whether it's utilities and whatever else.
Do we need to include any language in the lease that would allow us to terminate the lease in the event that any of the property was necessary for pipeline easement or for expansion of the water treatment plant or for any of our,
Legitimate city
I mean,
purpose, yeah.
Sure.
we did pay a stupid amount of money for it so we would have it for city purposes. I'd sure like to be able to terminate the lease, or if not terminate the lease, then at least carve out the parts that we need without having to go compensate for. I mean, it would be frustrating to have to come back in 10 years and have to pay a surface damage agreement for property that we've leased out on a sweetheart deal.
I don't know if the current language, Carol would know,
I don't see
but I
anything in
know
there.
that there's existing easements for the old lines and the new
Yeah.
lines. And
Right,
so those
but-
existing easements will still be in
Yeah,
place,
we-
but if we
But
need
they're
something
still
more,
necessarily, I
yes.
mean, just because we have an easement, we still would have to pay surface damages to the tenant if we go in and exercise our easement and tear their stuff up.
They'll
would rather not
they'll
have
have
to do
no
that.
problem agreeing to that, because I've kind of,
Yeah, we
sort of
talked about
broached
that.
Okay.
We
We
just,
we
we may
don't
not have
have,
it covered now, but we
but
could.
it would be, we probably should include something about the utility use.
Mm-hmm.
I had assumed that we didn't need it. But we had already told them there was no way we were gonna let them buy. Initially, the 20 acres included where our where our lines are, and
Which is part of the holdup in
we
trying to
tried,
figure out
and
a
we told
parcel
them,
that could be
we're not
sold.
gonna sell you, at $200 or $500 an acre or whatever, where our lines are. That doesn't make any
It
sense.
kind of cuts across diagonally, our pipeline
Right.
diagonally,
And-
then jogs over by the creek.
And they had agreed that they would take a different 20 acres, but to me, it just made sense not to, they can't afford to pay what we paid for it. So, the best I could come up with was if we want to, a long-term lease.
Yeah. Seems rational.
And we aren't using it
What's the-
actively.
There appears to be at the northwest corner of it, a road access to the creek. Is that the discharge point?
Is that right?
That concrete little jog over there?
Yes.
That's the discharge, okay.
Staff is telling me yes.
The echoing from across the engineers.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like most of us are in favor of it. It's the negotiation points that have to take place. And
Yeah.
You have to consider that. You've got our ideas on that, unless you think any more.
Go for it.
Well, I'm generally hearing at least cover costs,
Yeah.
and more would be fine too. Carol's been working on this language about the building cost, less the depreciation. Did we adequately talk about that? Did we?
Yeah.
Did-
That's
Amber
not
has-
in, because I
Is that
didn't
not in
have
that
Clint's. It's not in the one that I sent them.
Well, let's talk about
But
that. 'Cause
I have that language.
One of the things that they talked about was that they're gonna spend at least $200,000 or more. And they were concerned about if something happens, because it's a lease, they wanna know, do we get our money back? We had thought about some language. Well, first of all, we would want you to continue to operate. And if there was
Right.
somebody else that could pick up and do what you're doing, we'd probably want them to do that. But there has been some discussion about, well, if it was a 50-year lease, it sounds like it'd be shorter term, whatever the duration is, there's depreciation on stuff. So we talked about a depreciation schedule. I think we're talking 20 or 30 years. We probably need to talk about what your thoughts are on that to be able to negotiate something with them.
I just put, upon termination, the lessor will purchase the metal building that is constructed on the premises by the lessee for the purchase price of the cost of construction minus depreciation based upon a 20-year depreciation schedule. The cost of the construction will be agreed to by the lessor and lessee at the time of construction. But that was anticipating a long a long lease.
Well, but we could still, even if it was a short-term lease, it could still be ammed out over 20 years. I mean, if it was a.
Yeah,
That-
Yeah,
that's a good-
sure.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Would a 20-year lease, some form or fashion, like 10 and option for 10 or something, would that be palatable, or are you thinking more like 15 or less? I mean, even if we depreciate over 20,
Mhm.
it would seem like, I'm just trying to anticipate what they might ask.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable to have both the period of depreciation and the length of the long-term lease be the same?
They could be different. I mean, because that's.
I know, but they
yeah.
could be the same.
Yeah, they could. I just mean I don't think that would cause us any heartburn, except that at the end of if the lease did expire earlier, now we don't have to pay out the building if the lease terminates because they are no longer operating as an equine therapy nonprofit, correct?
That's not
That's
in
probably
there.
not their understanding, but we.
Well, we
Yeah.
should write it such that we don't have to buy out the building because their
Okay.
operations folded. I mean, are they a 501c3?
They say they are.
Okay, I mean, if they're a C3 and the operation ceases to operate, the assets of the operation have to be transferred to another qualified nonprofit entity. And I would rather not get stuck under their obligations than transferring the lease and the improvements to another nonprofit without our consent. If they cease to operate as a nonprofit, we should not have to write a check to anybody.
Okay.
If it's a metal structure, I don't know that much about buildings or any of that, but whatever the utilities are now, I'm thinking if it's a steel building, I'm not thinking energy efficiency when I think about steel buildings.
But if they do the spray foam in
It
them,
just
they're
depends
actually,
on how they do
they're
it.
really pretty
Okay.
efficient,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
What,
No, some that they do those Quonset huts with the.
what type of
closed
square
cell.
footage are they talking about for the,
I don't.
Yeah.
okay,
I don't really want to pay their utilities.
I don't either.
I
Is this
don't.
gonna be-
Okay.
Is this gonna be an addition to the facility they have now?
Yes.
They got a barn now,
Yes.
so they're
Yeah.
gonna build another building.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
Tear
there
down
will
the
be
most
two
of the
buildings
places.
that the utilities
yeah.
would
Yes.
be pulling.
And the one thing that I'm anticipating is this is not our problem,
Mhm.
but since they haven't been paying the utilities, the amount of utilities is that may be hard for them to come up with.
Well, I don't mind, I don't feel like we have to do it tomorrow. I mean, we could phase it in so they can ramp up their operations and fundraising to accommodate it. I don't mind giving them time to prepare for it. I mean, that's.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned that we didn't have meters or something in the region was part of the reason that they haven't been paying utilities. So that means we're gonna have to make some upgrades.
I don't know the exact reason.
It was a surprise to
but
me.
Something
But I mean, there could be
happened
some
that-
infrastructure.
failed to happen, and so they haven't been. So, as we were talking about it today, even,
We thought
I
they,
was under the impression they're paying.
They
but
were
we
paying, yeah.
verified they're not, because they told us they're not, so.
yeah,
We'll
Good
we'll
deal, you did
negotiate
it.
with them on
Mhm.
that. So, we're gonna look at a much shorter term than 50 years. I'm hearing something in the line of 15 to 20 might be palatable.
Yeah,
We're looking at covering at least expenses, which we've heard are about 500 a month. Is it
well, I
500
just don't want the
500 a
city to
month
be
or 500
responsible for the expenses.
No.
A month, okay.
Yeah, no, if we're doing a lease, just do it as do they have to insure it? There's there's $1 million policy in there. Just do it as
Yeah.
like a triple net. I mean, we don't have to pay, there wouldn't be taxes, I guess, there wouldn't be county taxes if we still own it, they're leasing it.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
So a double
I
net
can tell you,
lease.
I don't want to get the city, we got enough to do in the city, we don't want to be having to maintain. There's something in their current agreement that says if it's over 1,000, that they can consult with it, if
and I
it's under
took
1,000, they're
that
supposed
off,
to do it.
out. They just
Yeah.
need to take
I've
care of
got
it.
more speaking for my folks here than we can, we're
Yeah.
busy, so.
Yeah,
I stepped out a while ago, when you were talking about tearing down the house.
Yes.
Are they agreeing to tear it down, or are we saying we're gonna tear it down?
They have talked about it either way, but we have talked about in the agreement, we would tear it down.
Okay.
Just from the perspective, okay, we'll get it out of the way, we know who to call, we can get it
Do we know
done.
if there's any asbestos in that one?
I don't know, but if we contract it out, we would specify that contractor follow all applicable state and federal laws, and we would hold them to that, and then they would tell us if they.
It's very old,
Yes.
so I don't think that it would, but we could be
It probably
surprised.
has, I guess, I don't know, but it may have
Lead,
lead paint or
probably.
may have asbestos. There are obviously regulations that we would follow, but again, as we contract this out, we would just specify, and I think we do that currently. Contractor follow all applicable state, federal, and local laws, get your permit. And that's how we cover ourselves at the city to make sure it's done, demoed properly.
I'd be curious the next time we discuss this to have something in terms of the package that we would get for the CDBG programs that are applying in terms of a breakdown of what their mission is, what they do, who,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
who it's open for.
I've got a little something, but it's
Yeah.
not specific
And we were
enough.
actually gonna have them here tonight, but since we were still negotiating
I
on this
mean, I don't think
agreement.
a big presentation is required. I'm really
Okay.
just looking at
Info.
the way that we would evaluate any organization we were going to invest in. Because, I mean, this is really a long-term investment, looking at the impact that they have.
I can get with them tonight, we can get the information probably tomorrow and forward it to everybody, so you at least can start be contemplating and look at it and have questions ready.
Yeah.
Have we covered the general terms?
Yeah. Mhm.
I think we got some good feedback.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything else? If we're able to get this together timely, we would like to have something to bring back to you based along the lines of what we've talked about that you could consider next time if we're able to get to agreement with your input. Okay.
Okay. All right. Item number 4, discuss upcoming special events.
Mayor, Commissioners, Gerald, we got Lauren Sanders here. She's our event coordinator. She's going to present some of the events that's going on that we host. Anyway, we got Lauren Sanders right here. Go ahead, Lauren.
Alrighty. Okay. I don't know how this works. Okay, got it. All right, so this last weekend, we had 3 events all going on. On Friday, we had camping in the park, and that's held at Meadow Lake this year. And we had 67 people show up. It was great. Once the sun went down, the wind slowed down a little bit, and it was really nice. In the spring, we had 50 people. A lot of people had a lot of feedback that they really did enjoy this fall one, just weather-wise and all that. So we had that going on. That started at 4 p.m. on Friday and lasted until noon the next day. After that, we had our Nerf Wars. In the spring, we held that as well. They had 95 people this spring. This one was 25 people. We did move areas. It was I think it was at Champion Park in the spring. And so it was a little crowded, so they moved it. But unfortunately, the weather did have a little bit of effect. That was right when the storms were coming in. So, but it was a good turnout of people who came in. It was delayed a little bit just because of the weather, but they had fun. And so we're hoping to bring that back again and see weather-wise we can get it right.
And just to clarify, we facilitate a lot of events for organizations in the community. These are events that the city has stepped up over time, making efforts to really run events, to provide answers to that age-old question about what is there to do in Enid. Well, we're trying to do our part. City staff helps, Lauren's involved, doing all these things, and all the things she's showing you are things that we're doing and running, right, Lauren?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And then on Saturday afternoon, we had Get to the Point. So Get to the Point, the points are like sharps. People could come into Champion Gym and bring in use like needles. So the containers that people put it in, whether for diabetic or whatever reasons, they could bring those in, get new ones. They did partner up with a few organizations, including the Austin Box Foundation and like St. Mary's and T-Set, so they could bring in medications as well. And so for that, they had 200 people through the door. The Salvation Army provided food, and they said that they fed 250 people that day. And there were 14 groups and organizations that were part of that. Okay. And then coming up next weekend on the 12th of October, we will have the Community Cultural Celebration. This is, I believe, the 3rd year for the celebration. And at this time, we have 25 groups represented that will be in attendance, including, yes, 4 food vendors, 9 performances, and 2 speeches that will all be going on as well. Last year, we had 2,500 people and 19 groups. So the groups are growing. We have a different variety of people, and I think it's going to be a good turnout for next weekend. Then we'll have the haunted gym, and it'll be on October 30th, which will be the City of Enid employees, as well as we open for you guys to come as well. That will be on the 30th from 5 to 8 at Champion Gym. And then the following day, we have open to the public from 5 to 8. We will be opening at 4 p.m. that day, just so for the For Our Kids group. So there's less overstimulation, something that's somewhat fun for just them. And it looks like last year we had 12 rooms, and there's 56 employees for employee night and 300 for Halloween. There were 12 rooms last year. We did lower it to 11 rooms this year. We redid the layout and just making certain rooms bigger, smaller, just changing it up. We have 23 characters and people roaming around, and that includes 11 employees and 12 volunteers.
As far as I know, nobody got hurt last year.
Correct.
But we do have them, if you have heart problems or something like that, you have to
Epilepsy.
enter with caution.
We don't have any strobe lights, but so at least there's that. We did avoid that, but yes, there are some rooms that are a little bit more jumping out and things.
And I see Thursday at 4 p.m. You're going to do an early session for 4 kids. I think that'll take care of a lot of that problem. They're the ones more fragile, so I
Yeah.
appreciate your looking out for them.
That, and yeah, we would definitely work with Trisha a lot, and she loves that she's able to take her groups in. And then I was going to point out our photo shoot we did. We're putting that in promotion. There is a video that will be released as well, and just trying to make it fun and encourage the public to come out and join us.
So y'all produced that scene right there?
Yes.
That's all city employees.
Including Everett.
You can guess who
Right.
you are.
I said you're in there. I didn't say which one.
I'm the front one.
So,
That's
and
very good.
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun, and I can't remember what is the place that was done at. I don't know the
It's
location.
down off of Oakwood, where the old,
Oh, the out by the Terra Estates, in that nature trail area.
So that ended up being perfect, and the storm was rolling in, and so we got natural clouds overcast. So we are excited for that. And then Christmas in the Park is coming up this year. Let's see here. We are increasing the lights, which will include going higher up into the limbs of the trees instead of just the bases that were last year. And we are changing the layout to where we'll be having all of our City of Enid booths will be by the Ferris wheel. Instead of having some down by the Kiwanis rides and some just spread out, we're locating all of them together. The rides will be open again this year. And let's see here. Oh, lost my spot. Right now, entertainment-wise, we do have 7 elementary schools that have set to perform, as well as 1 singer. And I'm hoping, and I'm one of them, the City of Enid singing group for Christmas will go out one evening and perform. I'm talking to several other churches and singers as well, so we can get some good entertainment out there for everybody. Last year, we averaged 800 people per night. We were only open 3 out of 4 nights just because of weather closed down one of the evenings. Let's see. Right now, we have 14 characters, and that'll be 8 employees and 6 volunteers. We're still looking for a few elves maybe to wander around and help. But so that is coming up. And we do have parking at Jeffco and Cash Saver again this year that the EPTA will be transferring people in and out. Okay. And then this is our new park. So this year we're calling it Light Up the Park. So we are adding a display to the south side loop of Meadow Lake. And what it'll be is all of any business organization within the city of Enid or surrounding areas can come set up their own display. We are not providing any of their display, their lights. They can just come in, set it up, and we will provide the barricades. But other than that, on the south side loop, all we are providing is the barricade, the lights on like pavilions, and lights on some trees by the rest. And then on this side, it shows kind of our layout of where everything will be for Christmas in the park as well. And then let's see. Where was I? As for the light of the park, it will be open every day from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily. And that will be from November 30th when we have our first Christmas in the park until New Year's. So plenty of time for everybody to get out and just see it. And then, let's see, there's no cost for them to reserve a spot for the Southside Loop. We are opening all of that up as well.
Is there a certain number of slots available, or is it just based on space and how many people participate?
Space
'Cause you're
and
showing some
availability.
spots on the diagram. Okay.
On the Southside Loop, the spots that I have on there are the pavilions. I just had
Oh, okay.
those marked and numbered. We have several, maybe, a lot of people are going up higher in their corporation to make sure that, they can do that. But there are several groups that are very excited to be able to put something out. I know For Our Kids already has a display created, and they're ready to put it out. And let's see.
I know you guys have worked, I know G&E has helped us put out some new wiring and new outlets to help support this kind of thing, so.
You've actually got those all marked too.
Yes, electrical, all of their transformers and pedestals, and there's all the markings. The only ones that are not marked are for the tennis courts and the horseshoe pits. Those are the only markers I did not get where exactly they're at. But all of the marks are where electric is on the north and south side of the park. Let's see. The only thing for south and north, we will be talking to the PD about getting more presence for at night, just more security, just to check and to help deter some damages. But does anybody have any questions? No?
Cool. Thank you. Great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 5, discuss information from Oklahoma Municipal League Conference. Commissioner Waddell has offered to start us or lead us in a conversation on that, right?
Yeah, so we go to this conference every year. Figured we'd bring some back and share some of the ideas and things that we picked up while we were there. I had a list of things that I found really interesting. My point of emphasis, the group sessions that I went to were based primarily in community involvement and just really connecting with the community and the community development. So one of the first things that I came across that I thought, man, that's low-hanging fruit, something that we could do, was Mayor for a Day. Having a program to where we can get, essays, whether it be the middle school or the high school, about what they would do if they were mayor, and have them graded and judged. And,
God, they'll be disappointed.
but it would give them a great opportunity, because the winner would get to be mayor for a day and shadow our mayor around the city, and and do fun things and get to see hopefully not what it is that you do, but what some of the great things, some of the great things that are out there, what Enid has to offer, and what what your impact is. So that was the first thing.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and I thought we might even expand that to mayor or commissioners and involve somebody from each one of the boards to give them an idea on how that works too. So I don't think we should just limit it to mayor. I think maybe expand it.
He's trying to get us all wrangled. But I would not be opposed. I
You
think
volunteer me?
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm all
gavel.
for it. All for it. The next thing that I came across was it would be for the code department. One of the best practices that we saw was when code goes out and they hit somebody's yard for not being kept up. Seems like all we're doing is dinging. One of the things that they can do is when they're on the same block and they see yards that are doing good and look well, while they're on the same block doing that, they have an opportunity to hang something on the door that says, "Fantastic job making it look beautiful," and doing that. So it's an opportunity that's really, really cheap, but it also gives people encouragement to continue doing well with keeping up their yards. And again, low-hanging fruit that I think that would be really good to do. Another thing that I saw was, and I don't know if we already do this or not, but I think it would be really simple. We already do up a newsletter. It would be really good if whether it be quarterly or monthly, how we do it, when people go sign up to get their water bills, either A, hand them out a flyer in terms of what quarterly events that we have available in the city that are going on. If we're already doing that, a good way to hand that out to those folks, or give them the option for signing up to our email distribution list at that time, so we have a point of contact at that point to where they hear what that is. That's a little bit extra for those folks in that office, but it is an opportunity for us to be able to get our message out to those folks, because just about everybody who comes through here is going to have to get some water cut on, so that gives us a positive point of contact with just about everybody who comes through Enid. We could do a welcome to our town theme with quarterly events, targeted attractions that we list of important websites, list of important phone numbers that we may have. I'm sure we have something like that, but I haven't seen anything that was specifically done that way. I'll keep going. Oh, here was a cool one that I saw that some communities are currently looking at right now, swapping a current holiday like Columbus Day for our voting day. And so what we would do is that we would, this would be a little bit more difficult in order to be able to navigate as opposed to doing a newsletter. But a lot of people, because of, they're working, it's difficult. I know by law they're required to, but it's still hard for people to get out and go be able to vote because they are at work. If we were to take Columbus Day and go back to work, but now take that holiday that we have and designate that for the first Tuesday in November, to where now it's a holiday and people have all day in order to be able to come out and vote. I thought that was a good idea. Haven't really weighed all of the pros and cons, but I thought it was something that we could bounce around, talk about, and think about. And this has been done in other municipalities at this point to get that done. So I thought that was an interesting idea to explore.
Who in Oklahoma has done it?
I haven't found anybody in Oklahoma that's been able to get it done. Ohio,
Kinda interesting.
Missouri, I've seen, what was the other one? There's a couple of...
I know a lot of communities are doing Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day because it's a
Exactly.
horrible holiday.
I don't disagree.
But
I think in terms of taking as many excuses away for people not to
Yeah.
not get involved with civic responsibility would be great. I think it would be a good opportunity for us. So
Anything we can do to make people vote is good.
I agree.
Mhm.
That's right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going. Any other? All right. Here's the another one. Enid's public image on what we do. One of the interesting things was they took us on a web, put us in a search browser, and they typed in the name of a municipality, city of Alva, city whatever, and they looked at what the first pictures that popped up in terms of images, what came up. And that really is when people are searching out your community, that's really one of the first things that you see. I wouldn't say that ours are necessarily bad, but there's nothing really eye-popping about what it is that we have there. So that's something that really simply, let's do that. That's great, good idea. So just click on images.
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, it's not that it's bad, but man, we have such beautiful imagery of what Enid is and what Enid has to offer. Some of our public art, I know that sounds funny coming from me, but some of our picturesque scenes that we have across this community that would be fantastic to be the first things that people see when they search out our community would be a fantastic thing that we can do. And quite frankly, from what they were saying, it's not a complicated process in order to be able to get it done. So that's something that we can talk off more outline. But I think in terms of making sure that we're putting out the right image in terms of what our community is and what we have to offer and how beautiful we are, we can do better than, though our building is fantastic, we can do better than that. Right? Okay, good.
What example did they show and hold up as, was there some city that
gosh.
jumped out at you that?
I don't
we
remember
just
the
pull up
name
right
of the
now,
city.
look at the pictures?
It was... You remember the guy who was really loud and a heavy-set guy? I can't
That's
remember.
Matt White from El Reno.
That's the guy.
Type in El Reno, let's see what El Reno shows. He's the mayor of El Reno. He was just mayor of the year.
It's
I
their
think.
branding about like ours.
But is it-
No, not
point
that
well taken.
Not that excited.
No, not that exciting.
Okay.
It might have been somebody else. There was because he had like this big.
Matt is an
Weatherford,
excited
Jonathan,
person.
remember
so-
the-
It was Weatherford.
Yeah,
Do
the,
Weatherford, please.
Stafford Museum.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Enid though, or not Enid, but Oklahoma.
That's Texas.
Yeah.
Yes, Texas.
Weatherford, Oklahoma comes with a tornado. That's pretty good. It's like the second.
Okay, maybe that's not it. Either way,
We did it. Exciting.
we get it. Let's target.
They
Let's
have a
be.
Qdoba?
Let's be deliberate about what it is we're doing in terms of our messaging. See, we can be better than all these people.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions about that one before we move on to the next one? See, man, that's great. Fantastic. Look, that's beautiful.
A
Okay.
million
Alright.
people.
Yeah, right. So for our regular sessions, I think we do a good job of inviting different pastors from different churches and things like that. One of the things that I think would be beneficial if we invited them to be at the study session and start talking about some of the issues that they're talking about that their congregants bring. And they don't have to, but at least extending them the invitation. So, because it's a good way in order for to be able to get feedback of what's going on in the community in a very informal way, but it's free, and it doesn't take a whole lot of work. They're already coming here. They have a contact with multiple people in order within their congregation, inviting them for a seat at the table or in the room, and giving them a heads up to say, hey, look, we're going to afford you the opportunity to bring whatever issues that you have to the table in terms of discussing it with us and some issues. And if you wanted to say, hey, look, if you could send us a list, ahead of time so we can be a little prepared to better answer your questions, that'd be great. But giving them an opportunity, if we're going to invite them in, I think we should give them somewhat of a forum in order to be able to speak, for what it is they have on their hearts and minds during that time frame.
Yeah, they probably have to let us know in advance, because I think
Sure.
open meetings, they can't just come up and freewheel.
I'm thinking that might be a good town hall, though.
Yeah.
Would that be something you're talking about too, like have a group of pastors come at an
I
open
think we
public
could-
meeting, or
I think we could
or we
potentially
could
do
do a
that.
study session topic?
I was going to say, because for a study session, I mean, they're already coming up to pray in, 30 minutes or, 45 minutes. If we just had them for the study session, I think that would be productive. But I mean, again, I'm just, spitballing ideas.
No, I don't mind. I just want to make sure we're not in violation.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if they're going to,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give any examples.
Well, I'm sure they'll
Probably
have some
not,
things
yeah.
to
Oh, Dan
don't wanna do that.
Scheidel's back there in the corner. He had a
No.
fantastic idea. Did you want to say it? Because, okay, I'll say it. In terms of photography, we have some fantastic photographers that are already located in our area. In terms of the imaging, in terms of what we want to do, we could talk to some of those local photographers. Matter of fact, we've got a lot scattered around here inside the building. We could use those. But he dropped some names, and I don't know if I can do that. But what I will say is, let's tap the natural resources that we have here in Enid for some of those pictures and that imagery. Good stuff. Ready for the next one? Didn't know you was gonna be here that long, did you?
Yeah. We have nothing else to do.
All right. Inviting youth groups to say the pledge. I think we've done that a few times. I think we really could be more deliberate in terms of looking for some more of these youth organizations to be able to come out and say the pledge, and also affording them the opportunity to say, hey, look, when you guys come out, be prepared as a group to ask the commission a question, or the mayor a question, or the city manager, or whatever, and be able to respond to them. I think any opportunity we can take to get some type of community engagement, whether it be the youth or the pastors of the community. We already opened up the floor at the end of the session, but to engage as much as possible to be able to get feedback from the community would be good. Okay. My last one is more of a question more so than a direction. One of the things that they brought up had to do with targeted advertising in surrounding communities in terms of using their local periodicals or magazines, newspapers, and things like that to advertise what's going on in Enid. I'm curious as to how much, or if at all, we use any resources in order to be able to advertise events that we do here and we do well in their local newspapers to say, hey, look, come to Enid and have fun and stay a while and spend your money in our hotels and our restaurants.
I think the answer to that is, does the city, folks in this room, or our PR marketing department know we don't do very much of that? I think
Visit
any,
Enid does, though.
but Visit Enid
Oh, fantastic.
does a lot of advertising to bring people here for that specific purpose. ERDA does some advertising too, and I think they've gone together. First Team, really,
Mhm.
I believe First Team, and Scott is now our representative to First Team. That could be an item to bring up to them. But I know
Sure.
they've worked together to collaborate so that not everybody's spending ads for this and trying to duplicate, but together pool and advertise Enid. So I know it's being done, and we can certainly get some examples.
That'd be great.
From Marcy Jarrett and
Yeah, like I said, that was
Lisa
just kind of a
Cullen.
curious thing. I was just curious as if
First Team.
I know we do the magazine. I forget the name of the magazine that we.
Yeah, jump in if you got.
They have been working
There you go,
very
Tim.
hard lately at coming up with an entire new campaign. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen any of it, but they're finishing up a lot of designs for attractions to Enid and how they're gonna put those in different forms of advertisement. A lot of their ideas are for more online type things, but when they're done, I bet they would be happy at a study session if it would please you to get them to come in and show you what they've been working on.
Yeah.
Because they've spent a lot of time working on it and it looks good.
And ultimately,
You
it
guys will be
is,
pleased
it
with
is
it.
the city doing it, because as you know, these various outside groups that the city funds are the city.
Yeah.
Visit Enid, ERDA, some of the others, Chamber, they're all separate organizations, but working for the benefit of all of us. It's a great idea.
All right, that
We'll
was
have
my
a study
last one.
session
I'm
in the
done.
future.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a couple that I'll just bring up under that sessions that I went to. For those that go to Tulsa, I didn't go there, but every person we talked to, every session I went into, everybody said, you need to go to the gathering place in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So if you have not been there, I think that's a place to find some ideas, maybe inspire some ideas for things that we can do locally as well. It's a great big track, much bigger than we can afford, but I think we can find something on scale that's pretty close to that.
Did it have
So
retail
just-
stores there?
No, Gathering Place is
It's,
the most incredible park in the entire world.
Yeah.
It's like nothing you've
It's
ever
world
seen.
renowned.
George Kaiser raised more money than God and dropped it on this incredible, beautiful, breathtaking thing. You absolutely should go see it.
Yeah.
Just spectacular.
So anyway, just if you're over there, I would encourage you to go ahead and stop by and take a look and
Okay.
get something out of that. One of the other sessions I went to dealt with the census. That's coming up, and I think we need to probably get on that. Census helps us a lot. The higher legitimate number we have, the more federal funding would become available. So I think there's a lot of people really moving out on that, and I think we probably got to start
Yeah,
doing
let me take a few minutes and talk
Sure.
about, because we
Yeah.
really haven't talked about it much.
Yeah,
We have been, the census process started probably a couple years ago.
right.
And they always come and send and ask the city for information, our utility addresses, our GIS mapping. We've already done that, gotten that back. We actually had a complete census count committee with Tricia Woodward, who is the census representative from Oklahoma City. But we need to do more, obviously, and advertise. What Tricia Woodward, who works for the Census Bureau, has asked for this census committee and the folks involved, and she may have been the one, I didn't see that presentation, but she may have been the one at the OML conference.
Mhm.
They're not talking about having people that go out and count, because it's all done, most of it's done online now anyway. But they're looking for every organization to promote it and to support getting an accurate count and so I realize that's an area that we can do better at the city.
Oh, yeah.
So we were already gonna look at our efforts, but it's good that you mentioned that and timely. And certainly, we can have Tricia Woodward come in from the Census Bureau too. I don't know if she was the same one that talked or not.
I think she came, is she the one that came in and talked to us and was an executive?
Yes, and it gave us a schedule, and we really haven't done much since then.
Right.
But we know that there have been, for instance, the state just had the same exact kind of meeting. In fact, it was just a few weeks ago. I think Steve went, I don't know if you went. But they had the same meeting with the governor, having to talk about the same stuff. So we actually did our meeting before, but what we have not done well is follow-up
Yeah,
and
just wanna push it
advertising and
out.
telling people it's coming, and, you know, it's mostly online, it's okay to fill it out, please do, because here's how it helps Enid with
Yeah.
getting more funding. I just had I haven't had a conversation yet, but I had Jay Sharp, who is an active guy in the community, works for TSET, the tobacco
Right.
group office out at Northwestern, and asking about it. And I would love to get his help and his assistance, because, and maybe it's probably a first team thing too, that all of our organizations need to jointly be talking about it and, you know, putting ads out there and using their Census Bureau stuff. If there's something more we need to do, we probably need to get educated on that. But yes, so
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I think we might have heard the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same lady or not.
Yeah, and it's all, yeah, I'm not, I didn't bring it up to be critical or anything like that. It's just, there's a lot of misconceptions that are out there about, you know, I don't want to be counted for the census because then they're going to find out my status or what, and that's not what it's about at all. So I think it's trying to get rid of the myth but that takes a little education, a little public effort. So anyway, that's my point there. All right.
Haven't you developed some sort of a committee or something?
We put together a complete census count committee.
Yeah.
We've only had one meeting, and that was with the one meeting several months ago. Carrie actually set it up. Tricia Woodward came up and talked about these same things. We've got our census kit, and we need to go back and look at that. We may need to expand the committee, because I don't recall who was on it, but a lot of the people, we need people that have spheres of influence to be on that committee, so they can take that message back to their sphere of influence and advertise through there, or publicize what we're trying to do. And so we will ramp up our efforts there.
Good, all right.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yep. Okay, did anybody, let's see, we had others that were there, was there any specifics that you wanted to share?
It was my first time to go. Obviously, I didn't really know what to
Wow.
expect.
Yours, mine, his. Yeah, there's a lot of us that were first time.
I particularly liked the breakout sessions. They were 1 hour, direct, right to the topic, and allowed you to ask questions at the end. One of them I went to was the same one that Jonathan did that he was just talking about. But one of them I went to was regarding TIF. And while we had discussed that initially, like at the first meeting I was at, you know, I didn't know any of those idiosyncrasies about it, and I certainly had reservations voting for anything that I didn't fully understand. And in a 1 hour session, you don't learn it all, but at least it helped me kind of break that down, and I think moving forward, I can ask maybe some better questions than what I could have. Another session that I went to was, and I like this one a lot, it was over writing grants, and had the guy, he was from the U.S. Department of Commerce, and he gave really great examples of where they're providing money to some of these cities. Example was Ponca City. I think, Rob, I think you were in that same one. There was a large 5-story building over there that the realtor wanted to sell, offered it to the city, they passed, reduced the price, offered it again, passed, you know, it kept on until eventually they said, hey, we'll just give the thing to you. They needed a new police station. Well, that's all great, but then the cost of renovating that. The Department of Commerce stepped in and provided several $1 million on that, and they have a great, apparently, according to them, I haven't seen it, police station. So he just kept saying there is money available. There's money available. Ask for it. He even said when you go to our site, right-click, use the same language, and send it to us. You know, now, once again, that's like someone saying, I'm from home office and I'm here to help. We all know what that means, but I do think there could be some additional money. I would really like to have him come up and, if not talk to the whole group, at least talk to the ones that deal with that, and just make sure that we're capturing all those dollars that are available to us.
Can I caveat on that real quick?
Sure.
There's actually a conference going on down in Oklahoma City
I saw that.
this month that's going to be talking about grants and a lot of the money that's available. So it'd be nice if we had somebody present in order to be able to.
Is OML doing
get
that
some
one, or
money.
who's doing that one?
I want to say it's
Yeah.
OML. Yeah.
Yeah, 17th and 18th. I don't know if we got somebody going, but we're certainly, it's on our radar.
Okay.
And just let me say, because we can do a better job of informing you on some things. In the Department of Commerce, that's a good point. There's probably a whole lot of other stuff. But we did just apply, we really, NODA applied with the RDA assistance and city assistance on an EDA grant for the GCIA area out here. I believe it's about $1 million grant to develop roads, water and sewer. A really big grant package, Mary, you've been involved with out there that the city's looking at, really with the RDA, and Mike Cooper on the lead on that, talking with the Department of Commerce about looking at getting money through their programs for our water treatment, our new water treatment plan, and for a radar system at Wood Ring. So, yes, we will figure out who that was, and can certainly bring him in. There's probably other opportunities we need to explore, but I want to make you aware Those two we are. One has already been submitted, so we'll find out. The industrial grant one just got submitted. We should find out, I think it's gonna be a month or so. We'll know if we get that or not. It benefits the city, even though it's GCIA, it's on 54th Street. But the real beneficial one will be whatever, if we get money for a water treatment plant, and then for the radar, that's already been talked about at Woodring. So, but.
And I didn't bring it up either to be critical, but I just don't want to leave any dollars out there that could be available to us, especially moving forward. So, then the last one I went to was the marijuana.
I knew we'd be talking about marijuana, because
I
they had a
know,
lot of
and
marijuana
I'm not
sections.
gonna get on that, but it was very, very, informational. One of the city staff from Ardmore had actually presented on that and actually talked about some struggles that they'd had and then some things that they'd done really, really right. And the relationship that they built with those dispensaries and they had worked at it pretty hard, and I will tell you that they are currently, she finished with this, they're currently writing what they think are gonna be their ordinances for recreational, because they said, we don't wanna be behind the curve again on this thing, where we're trying to catch up. So I don't know if that's truly a possibility when you don't know what the state laws are yet, but, and then the last thing I'd leave you with on that particular class was, and I was curious about this, I've asked you, Gerald, and Aaron, you know, how many tax dollars are we getting from the dispensaries that we have now? And ironically enough, they had just, I say just, within a month or 6 weeks had pulled those reports in Ardmore. And the dispensary that they felt like was doing the most dollars, had turned in 0 tax dollars. The number 2 had turned in $36. So, however, last week, or 2 weeks ago, Ben and I were discussing that and just roughly did a search, and I'm not convinced that that's the situation here, but it would be very helpful, I think, that we need to look at that, because anytime you have an all-cash business, you know, we just want those schools and roads and streets that everybody promised us, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I know we have listened. I don't know that we've compiled the data yet, but I know that Aaron's been working to identify the codes.
I think it's 453998.
There are 3 different codes that we
Thank
have people turning stuff in under.
Would you
And we-
send us which ones they are?
Yes, I can send you those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That
But
OTC database with the NICS codes is fascinating. NAICS.
it's great. I know one of them has to do with if they sell edibles or not versus just unprocessed products. But I'm not sure why the 3rd one is kicking in there.
Huh.
But yeah, as of right now, we have 3 different codes.
Overall, though, I thoroughly enjoyed the conference. I appreciate the city letting me go to that, and you know, I think it was very beneficial. You don't know what you don't know until you get over there and sit in some classes.
There is, they do the OML conference every year, and there's also the companion organization at the national level, National League of Cities, NLC. I think they have a conference, I think it's coming up in November if it's not this month. So we have had commissioners in the past go to NLC too. So if any of you want to go to NLC, just let Carrie know. We can look up the dates. I don't know that I recall what the dates are.
November this year.
November.
Mhm.
Anyway, because those are great learning opportunities to learn from others. I know as Aaron looks up those 3 codes, I don't know if we've got a good handle on how much they're paying yet, but I'm pretty safe in saying I think that I don't know that it's a gold rush for the city now yet, like it may be perceived to be by the proliferation of dispensaries. I think we have 12 or something that Kenneth said, and then a whole bunch of other groweries and other related businesses. So
Ardmore was second only to Oklahoma City. Wow. I found very
Well, because
interesting.
it's state line. I mean, it's
Good.
technically, we're from Texas, driving up
Could
to
be,
Ardmore.
yeah. Yeah, probably is.
Yeah. They're getting all that out-of-state sales tax money.
they
Good for
can't-
them.
They can't get the medicine in Texas.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Well, those are good points.
I
Yes,
have a
Rob.
couple comments.
Sure.
That we need to
The
cross
guy
state lines for pot
on the grants was a great guy, and Marty Mueller is pretty good friends with that guy. I wrote his name.
It wasn't Brent, it must have been somebody else.
No, it was another gentleman, but she can tell you what his
Okay.
name is. And he did a great job. The National League of Cities, I had the opportunity to go to a couple of those. Those are really good deals. They're expensive, for the city to pay for them, us to go. But, maybe on a limited scale, that might be something to consider, in the future, because you get a much broader perspective on, we see Oklahoma, we kind of know Oklahoma, but to hear people from far, they come up with some things that we don't know about. So, the last thing is the general session, the first session, the mayor of Tulsa presented, and I've known a couple of mayors in Oklahoma City and Tulsa both. This guy's unique. He is really unique, and you'll remember he came in there and had been on some sort of a 24-hour vigil of going out and tagging individual organizations, and I think you ought to consider that, George.
All right.
You can stay up 24 hours, and you can go to Ambucks twice and Rotary once, and
Yeah. No.
but it's
no.
a good idea.
It's
a
yeah,
good
it was.
way to
It
spread
really-
the news, to
yeah,
spread the good
it
news. and
emphasized a
that's-
lot of things in the city, so if, you know, if
That's
there
what
was a
he's-
nonprofit that was just starting out and he wanted to emphasize, he'd show up there at
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the afternoon. But it was every hour for 24 hours. He was showing up somewhere around the city to highlight something. So it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And they were putting that on social media and other stuff
Sure.
or to get
Yeah.
awareness.
But,
I'm sure it was
Because
in
if
the
there's no
paper.
pictures, it didn't really happen, right?
that's true.
Have to do it again.
I'm
Yeah.
sure he had plenty of photo documentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was a very energetic guy. I heard his name and never heard him in person.
Yeah.
Pretty impressed.
Yeah.
Young guy, kind of like George.
The city has money in the, I believe it's in the general government budget for you to attend these types of conferences. So if any of you want to go to NLC and know more information, just reach out. Carrie can get it for you, and if you want to sign up, that'd be great.
Yeah.
San Antonio.
Is that where it is?
Is that where it is?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Oh, that's not far.
The power of the web.
He's been all over.
All right.
2024.
Let's see. I might be down there. No.
It's a week before Thanksgiving, right? So.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, hearing none, we'll stand adjourned and meet upstairs at 6:30.
Thank you for watching the Enid Television Network broadcast of the Enid City Council study session. Replays of the meeting will air on Channel 12 and 112, including a live stream of the meeting at enidtv.org.